Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the listeners and viewers around the world. Welcome to and yet another exciting episode of Airworthy Talks by Udan Aviation Academy. Now, today's episode is something special. For today's episode, we have got someone from the world of air traffic management. It is very difficult to get hold of someone who is at the air traffic control tower because the view itself is such mesmerizing that they just want to don't leave their offices and come out here. Today we have someone who has been an integral part of our ever increasing skies full of planes. He has been someone who has not only been managing the skies very efficiently, but also is someone who is also training the next generation of future aviators within the aviation industry. Without any further ado, let me start our conversations around crafting careers around air traffic management. And today I have with us Mr. Ravindra Keshkar. Ravindra ji, very good morning and welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you? Good morning, and thank you so much for giving me such a wonderful platform so that I can express my views and tell more something about air traffic controllers, how they work. Because even when I joined, I was new. I did not know about this. So I'll be sharing my views as far as practicable in this limited time so that everyone can know what air traffic role is all about.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. In fact, this is a $1 million question which is coming to my mind that there is not much exposure when it comes to air traffic management. People, when they think about aviation industry, they just think about, okay, there is a pilot and there is this beautiful air hostess. People don't think about the person who is actually managing the skies. So what is that eureka moment when you realize that, you know what, I want to become an air traffic controller?
The question is right when I was also preparing in Delhi.
Hmm.
Like most of the youngsters, when they do engineering, they mostly go to Delhi for preparing for IES or other public sector examinations. They mostly don't know what an air traffic controller is, or the job profile they don't know, they are not aware of. In 2010, when I was preparing for engineering services and other public sector organizations, even I also didn't know that there is something called as air traffic controller, or some people are behind the role doing that. Because when we were in Delhi, we also thought that only pilots, and we never knew that there can be someone behind the scenes who are controlling the pilots and guiding them throughout their destination and departures. So initially, when I went to Delhi, I was not aware about the term air traffic controller because most of them don't know what it is.
Hmm.
So uh, in 2010, there was a notification for a job role as an air traffic controller. Not much aware about that. I just filled up the form and then waited in sequence for the examination. And then in after giving the written exam,
Mhm.
I had to appear for Viva also.
Hmm.
At those days, we had a written exam as well as Viva also. So
Right.
I had cleared the written exam and then I had to prepare for Viva. So for Viva, you have to look what does the air traffic controller looks like, or what are the job roles. So I was searching through it, and then slowly I got into details, and then I was fascinated by the job of an air traffic controller. Then that was the eureka moment कि हाँ मुझे ठीक है अब करना है वो जो है, because I liked it कि ऐसा कुछ भी होता है, those who control the pilots and all. So that was a eureka moment for me, and then I decided कि ठीक है अब इसमें जाना ही है, because I had to clear the viva and go into this as an air traffic controller.
Very nice journey. In fact, it's a very good journey which has happened. I would label it as coincidence, but कभी कभी कुछ चीजें अच्छे के लिए होती है. And with that sort of notification, it gave you the exposure to world of air traffic controller, and you realize that okay, this is something which I want to do, and here you are on this podcast show. So I don't want to like put the Kapil Sharma dialogue out here कि आपने ये पूरा चीज मेरे शो पे आने के लिए किया है. But here you are, and we are talking about air traffic control. Right. Very brilliant journey, sir. The next thing that I wanted to sort of know about is that, and there are a lot of myths which students also pursue about air traffic controller, कि ये बहुत ही stressful job है. The ones who are in this job, they smoke cigarette or addicted like anything, because such is the examples which are also floated in the market. I am sorry to say this, but then there are people who use words like, they get chain smoking addicted because of the amount of stress that people go through. Or in fact there are myths like कि जो ATC के बातें हैं वो common people भी एक radio frequency पे सुन सकते हैं. So there are a lot of myths around air traffic control, and I wanted to sort of discuss this with you कि ऐसा सही में होता है क्या? What is your take on this?
Some things are true, some things are not. The first thing is that the job of air traffic controller is considered as most stressful and challenging job in the world. So that part is true कि बहुत ज़्यादा challenging और stressful तो होता ही है. So what happens is because of this, when you're working on channel, you have many lives at stake. So there is a bit of stress in that, and one mistake and you are gone. So थोड़ा stressful है because of that. But the other thing is कि chain smoker हो जाते हैं या caffeine से बहुत ज़्यादा addicted है is partially correct, partially not correct, because I myself have been working for past 12 to 13 years. I am not a caffeine addict. हाँ, थोड़ा सा चाय कॉफी चलता है, but not a chain smoker, or itself I do not smoke. तो ये थोड़ा सा myth I wanted to tell that कि हाँ stress है, but there are other ways you can relieve the stress. You can do meditation and all.
Wow.
And stress तो रहता है जो है. And the second thing is कि shift pattern is not same. So someday you have morning shift, someday you have afternoon shift, then you have night shift. तो shift pattern से you have sleep disorder हो जाता है थोड़ा सा जो है. So that you have to take care of. And apart from that, it is a bit stressful job because many lives are at stake. You are not handling only one aircraft, you are handling so many aircrafts in a day. So you are handling so many lives. So it's a bit stressful job. And the other thing is कि most of them are addicted to tea, coffee maybe. The chain smoker कुछ होते हैं, कुछ नहीं होते. That in every job profession ऐसा, जिस आप किसी भी job में जाओगे तो थोड़ा stress तो होता है. So that depends on you कि आप कैसे हो. And the next thing is कि जो radio transmissions की बात है, foreign countries में they have this radio transmissions you can listen on internet or through other means. But in India, due to some rules and regulations, DGC have banned, and you cannot listen to this radio transmissions live on internet. Apart from that, the DGC, the controller and pilots have, the pilots and ground engineers, they have license which is called certificate of proficiency to talk on RT. So until and unless you do not have that license, which is conducted by wireless planning and coordination examination, so you do not talk on RT. So that's why in India it is very restricted, and you cannot hear on RT as like other countries you can hear on internet or something like that. The DGC has banned, so you cannot hear radio transmissions on internet in India.
Very true, very true. And you have rightly mentioned कि stress तो हर job में ही होता है. It's how we deal with that stress. And you have rightly brought out the point of meditation, because in this hybridized world of looking everything with a cool factor, there are certain people who is like मुझे ATC air traffic controller बनना है, तो I should learn smoking first because that is something which will relieve my stress. But actually that is not the case. It's all about how we manage the stress. We have rightly brought about the point of meditation, and I echo my voices with you out here. Is that yes, this is the most stressful job, one of the most stressful job when it comes to sort of within the aviation industry. Now, talking about stressful job and the most stressful job within the aviation industry, I wanted to understand, sir, that what is the day in the life of Ravindra looks like?
Okay.
What is your typical day looking like?
Actually being an air traffic controller, every day is not same. कभी कम traffic होता है, कभी ज़्यादा traffic होता है. It's not same throughout the year or day. कभी ऐसा होता है कि कम काम है, कभी ऐसा होता है कि ज़्यादा काम है. तो depends. So being an air traffic controller, some days are very hectic. On busy days, you have a lot of pressure to cater out for the arrivals and departures. Because क्या होता है कि अगर आप उस arrival and departures को cater out नहीं करोगे, तो that delays will be cumulative, and resultant will be कि there will be more number of departures at airports. या arrivals हैं जो hold कर रहे हैं, that will be diverted. So these things happens. मतलब कभी कम काम है, कभी बहुत ज्यादा एकदम स्मूथ चल रहा है, जो everything is smooth and smooth चल, because in last year, not last year, 2018 में we did 1008 movements. That was a
Yes,
single
that
runway
was the
operation
record.
busiest
Yeah.
movement in one day.
Hmm.
So that was a hectic day for us. But ऐसा कभी कभी जो है average, अगर सब कुछ smooth चल रहा है, then it does not cater to delays and all. लेकिन कभी ऐसा भी होता है कि आपको due to some congestion and all, उसकी
Hmm.
वजह से बहुत ज़्यादा hectic हो जाता है. Also, we have shift pattern in our duty. So we
Hmm.
have basically morning shift, afternoon shift, and night shift.
Hmm.
And morning shift and afternoon shift are basically of 6 to 7 hours. Then you have
Hmm.
night shift, which is of 12 hours. इसमें क्या होता है कि मॉर्निंग शिफ्ट एंड आफ्टरनून शिफ्ट जो है बेसिकली थोड़ा ज़्यादा ट्रैफिक होता है, नाइट शिफ्ट में थोड़ा कम होता है. तो एवरी डे इज डिफरेंट डे. ऐसा कभी ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आज सेम हो, कल भी सेम हो. वो
Right.
सिचुएशन भी रोज़ डिपेंड करता है कि आज सब कुछ स्मूथ गया, कल ऐसा होता है कि हेक्टिक डे गया. तो
Hmm.
इट्स नॉट लाइक अ सेम डे फॉर अस.
Right, right. And that is one of the merits भी बोल सकते हैं उसको, not so good factor of aviation industry is that it is very dynamic by nature and not every day is going to be the same, whether as an air traffic controller, as a pilot, cabin crew, ground staff, even back operations. One day everything is going smooth and next day there is a war situation and things they go upside down. So rightly said by you, sir. And that's the beauty, of working in this sector. Ki every day is very different. Now, sir, I'm sure that you will have a lot of ATC stories to share about. Okay, and that is where sort of I wanted to ask you, ki, what is that best air traffic controllers moment that you have had till date? And reciprocating that, what is that worst air traffic controller moment that you have had till date? So we'll start with the positive.
ओके. सो बेस्ट एक्चुअली एक दिन तो नहीं है, बेस्ट डेज आर देयर कि मतलब दो चार, मतलब बहुत सारे डेज हैं इन दैट.
Hmm.
जब सपोज यू हैव अ बिजी heavy traffic congestion and then you're working and you are giving your best कि
Hmm.
चलो आज ट्रैफिक निकालना है जल्दी से, we have long delays and we have to reduce the delays. So those heavy traffic days when you are doing good and you get appreciation from seniors also, sometimes pilot also gives you appreciation कि you have done a great job, good controlling. तो वो दिन हमारे अच्छे होते हैं because you get appreciation from seniors also as well as from pilots also. So we are, they tell you that you are doing exceptionally well. Seniors से appreciation मिल गया. या best days मैं कहूँगा कि जब मैं पहली बार controlling कर रहा था, the first day after my training, those training days when I completed my training on channel, and then the first day I was controlling. So it was my best day because I was independent on channel और मुझे लग रहा था कि ठीक है अब मैं कंट्रोल कर सकता हूँ. And the moment I got appreciation from pilots, it was the best day of my life. And we'll start with the worst तो नहीं कहूँगा मैं, but I will say कि challenging days हमारे लिए तब होते हैं, especially in monsoons या visibility कम है. So there are more number of arrivals and departures जो कि hold कर रहे हैं because of poor visibility and monsoon. We have to take extra care because delays also increase because of monsoon. Runway surface conditions are wet and which caters to long delays. अभी वहाँ पे pilots भी परेशान होते हैं क्योंकि passengers उनको पीछे से परेशान कर देते हैं. Pilots also get annoyed and then they try to pressurize controllers also, but we have to take the safety concerns also. So we cannot. तो वो दिन हमारे लिए stressful होते हैं, especially challenging होते हैं जब when you are handling the situations in monsoon or in poor visibility conditions.
Right, very true, sir. And I just wanted to sort of ask that कौन से airline के pilot ने आपको आपके day one पे appreciation दिया था?
I think it was Indigo pilot.
Wow, right. Good to know that. And you have rightly mentioned, sir. I mean, monsoon days and the days where there is low visibility, I think the amount of risk associated with your work magnifies to a greater extent. So I think obviously those days are something where you all need to be very cautious about the scenarios. Right. Now, sir, थोड़े टाइम पहले आप मुंबई के बारे में बात कर रहे थे and you mentioned in the year 2018 you and your team did 1008 movements on a single runway at an airport like Mumbai. क्या उस दिन आप लोग खा के आए थे? What was that secret sauce that you all sort of gelled together to did that, huge moment. Yeah.
Actually, movements तो daily बस normal average उतने होते हैं, but it was that day कि number of movements जो aircraft से वो ज़्यादा थे. The movements because we average to is same. और उस दिन ज़्यादा aircraft थे तो ज़्यादा movement हो गए. And the thing is कि we have this record also doing a single busiest runway operation in 1 hour. So we have done up to 55 movements in 1 hour also.
Wow.
So अगर वो देखा जाए तो अगर aircraft ज़्यादा है तो we can cater for larger number of movements also. So that was a lucky day because number of aircraft ज़्यादा थे तो इसलिए we had 1008 movements in that particular day. And I want to tell you something कि जैसे हमारे यहाँ all over India, unlike other airports, most of the airports use distance based spacing. तो जो दो arrival होते हैं उनके बीच में 7 miles 8 miles और ऐसा spacing मिलता है to push a departure. But what happens in Bombay is we use time based spacing. जहाँ जैसे लंदन हीथ्रो या वहाँ पे जो है टाइम बेस्ड स्पेसिंग यूज करते हैं. तो टाइम बेस्ड स्पेसिंग में क्या होता है कि दो अराइवल के बीच में वी सी द टाइम. So the arrivals are put into the spacing as considered as time. तो टाइम डायलेशन जितना होता है, सपोज दो अराइवल के बीच में 2 मिनट है, तो विल पुश अ डिपार्चर. सो दैट डज नॉट डिपेंड्स ऑन स्पेसिंग. तो विंड फैक्टर्स और ये सब लेके व्हेन यू सी दैट, so what happens is even if the spacing is less, maybe 5 nautical miles 6 nautical miles, but the time is same, so we can push a departure. तो ये फायदा मिलता है as compared to other airports in India. So what happens is because of this time spacing, we are able to push more number of departures as compared to other stations. बाकी stations में क्या होता है कि distance based spacing होता है, तो वो अगर थोड़ा सा कम भी हो गया because of wind correction, तो that they are not able to push the departures. Also we have so many rapid exit taxiways. उसमें क्या होता है कि runway occupancy time of aircraft is reduced. So after many assessments and safety assessments, ये सब चीजें देखी गई, and then we have started using this time based spacing, which has catered to more number of arrivals and departures at Mumbai.
Right. Very, very sort of nicely put out that, sir. Obviously the time-based, sort of departure rather than the space-based or distance-based is obviously one of the recipes out there for such a high number of movements. Now, when you think about air traffic control, generally people don't know in depth about what ATC is. They might only know that, okay, there is a person who is speaking with the pilot in command and obviously maneuvering the traffic. But could you like tell us कि क्या departments है air traffic control में, and what is the length and breadth of ATC operations looking like? Yeah.
Okay. So actually under the air traffic control, we basically have aerodrome control service, approach control service, and area control service. So at smaller stations, like when you go at Bhopal, Indore and all, so you will have maybe aerodrome control service and approach control service. But at larger airports, what you have 4 to 5 units, which consist of aerodrome control service, approach control service, area control service, and even oceanic control service, which looks after the aircrafts which are over the oceans. So at smaller airports, aerodrome control service will be consisting of maybe 2 or 3 parts. Suppose you have clearance delivery and ground position, then you have tower control position. Also at bigger airports, you have same units. So what happens is when you are into aerodrome control service, that it looks after the 3 positions. Like Mumbai Tower has 3 positions in aerodrome tower. So one is clearance delivery, one is ground control, and one is at tower control. So what clearance delivery is he gives the clearance to the aircraft based on the departure and then what route he has filed, the climbing altitude. Okay. And these all things are done by the clearance delivery position. Once the aircraft is ready for pushback, the clearance delivery position will change the aircraft to the ground position. Ground position will look and cater for the aircrafts which are pushing back and also taxiing to the holding point, as well as the arrivals going to the parking base. So he clear of all the departures and arrival conflict on the ground. He will push the departure to the holding point and cater for the arrivals up to the parking base. So this is the job profile of a ground controller. And then we have a tower controller which looks after the arrivals and departures. So what happens is he will give takeoff and landing clearance to the departures and arrivals according to the based on the judgment of his skills, and he will be pushing all the departures and arrivals. Then we have approach controller. After the aircraft is airborne, so the approach controller will look after the departures as well as the arrivals which are coming at the airport. He will be giving them descent, and he will be giving the climb to the departures up to some extent, maybe up to maybe flight level 140, flight level 160, which is 14,000 feet or 16,000 feet. And then after 40 to 50 nautical miles, the aircraft will be changed to the area control, or you can say en route control. The en route control will look after that, and he will give the final climb to the aircraft, what the aircraft has requested. And then after maybe 100 or 150 nautical miles, he will be changed to the next area control. The next area control will look after that, and accordingly, he will, if the aircraft is landing at that aerodrome, he will give descent, and same happens with approach control and then the tower control. And we have oceanic control also. So all the aircrafts which are, suppose in Mumbai, so which are flowing over the Arabian Sea, so they will be looked after by the oceanic control. So right from below the Karachi airspace and right up to the Mauritius. So that is handled by this oceanic control. So we have these types of units. Also, we have ATS reporting office where the pilots will file the flight plan or to their billing purposes. So we have one section for that also. So these are the basic units we have in the air traffic control.
Air traffic control. Thank you so much, sir, for that in-depth explanation. Right from clearance to getting the desired altitude. I think you have channeled out the sequence really well, and could be a great learning experience as well. This podcast for all our listeners. Right. So, sir, moving on, communication is an important part of air traffic control. I mean, you have to communicate people from diverse nationalities, having various accents. And that is something, students or learners today, they find it कि मुझे इंग्लिश बोलना नहीं आता है, या आई एम नॉट गुड एट स्पीकिंग इंग्लिश, या मैं ना थोड़ा इंट्रोवर्ट टाइप का हूँ, सो एटीसी इज नॉट फॉर. Okay, so how do you like manage your communications with different nationalities, throughout your day?
Okay, so basically what happens is the controller uses standard phraseology, which are already defined in some particular manuals, or you can say document. So like for this document of radio telephony, we have standard document called Doc 9432, where all the standard words and phrases are given. And you can use these to communicate with pilots. And pilots also use this document to communicate with traffic controllers. So it consists of standard words and phrases which are used in radio telecommunications. Since because English is not the primary language for maybe both controllers and pilots also, it is not their mother tongue. So to avoid this ambiguity between what the controller is saying and what the pilot is understanding, or the vice versa, so we use this standard manual, which is called Doc 9432, and we have other docs also. So using these docs, we use standard words and phrases, which will help to reduce the ambiguity, and we can use this for radio telecommunication. Apart from these, sometimes it happens when the pilot is not able to understand, especially when the some foreign pilots, like I would not name them, but there are some pilots who are not able to understand, so we have to repeat twice or thrice, so it becomes sometimes difficult for us to make them understand. But still, because since we are using the standard phraseologies which are detailed in Doc 9432 or Doc 4444, so what happens is it becomes easier for us to make them understand, because there is no ambiguity between these phraseologies. So it is not a like मतलब standard words हैं कि आपको ये बोलोगे तो ये मतलब ही है, उसका मतलब चेंज नहीं होगा जो है. So even they can understand because उन्होंने भी वो चीज पढ़ा है. So this makes them easier to understand.
Right, and very well said, sir. That's the beauty of standardization as well. So as long as we follow the standards and the given norms, it will be good for both ways. Right, sir. Now, moving upon to careers into air traffic controller, and there are a lot of people or a lot of students who want to know the exact pathway or the right pathway to become an air traffic controller. So, what would be your take on this? What is the best academic pathway to become an air traffic?
Actually, there are, I will say, after doing class 12th,
Hmm.
and that you have to do with maths and science, so that
Hmm.
you can pursue for air traffic controller. What you have to do is after 12th, and you have to do a graduation in BSc with
Uh-huh.
maths and physics,
Hmm.
or you can do a BTech graduation in any field or any stream.
Hmm.
And basic minimum percentage criteria is 60%. So you have to have 60% in your academic career throughout. And
Hmm.
after that, on AI website, on the career section, you have notifications for ATC, which comes maybe year or every 2 year it comes, that
Hmm.
you have to fill the form, and then you can apply for ATC. After that, you will be giving written exam, and you will have Viva. And
Hmm.
then if you qualify, you will become an air traffic controller. After that, being an air traffic controller, you will be sent to the centers which are located in Allahabad and Hyderabad and Gondia, where your on-job training will continue. After maybe 1 year, your training process will go on for 1 year. Then once you complete your training process, you will be sent to stations to work as an air traffic controller. There also you will do training, and then after this process, you will be working independently as a air traffic controller.
Right. That's a very right pathway that you have said. Obviously, maths and science play a very important role out here. So it's very important to have that, particularly for the ones who are doing their, plus two. That maths and science is something which is really important. Um, Sir, being an air traffic controller is also a game of lot of skill sets. बहुत सारे skill sets आपको चाहिए. So what is that top 5 skill sets that you feel कि नहीं ये एक air traffic controller में होने ही चाहिए?
Okay. So there are certain abilities one should have to be air traffic controller. The first one I would consider is multitasking.
Hmm.
So someone who does not know about the job of an air traffic controller will be uh, thinking that he's sitting at one place with mic, and what does he require? Why does he require multitasking? So I would say that I would give an example of a tower controller who is sitting
Hmm.
in tower,
Hmm.
and he has to not only deal with the landing and takeoff aircrafts, but also has to see the aircrafts which are positioned on ground. Like example, I'm telling you, he has to see whether the aircraft is rolling or not. If the arriving aircraft, he has to see the position of the arriving aircraft. Apart from these, he has to see that what are the runway conditions, whether the
Hmm.
runway condition is dry, runway condition is wet, and are there some bird activities on the runway. At the same time, he's thinking about which aircraft he has to give priority.
Hmm.
And so considering all these, we can understand that multitasking is required for being an air traffic controller. So first and foremost, I will think that multitasking is the important part of the skill set which is required to be an air
Air
traffic
traffic
controller.
controller. Right. Yes.
The next thing I would say is, like you said, good communication skills.
Hmm.
So good communication skill or the language ability is required, because sometimes what happens is pilot is not able to understand what a controller wants to say.
Hmm.
And so you cannot use body language to explain them, because you are sitting on the other side, and you will not be able to make them understand through your body language. So what
Right.
you can only do is through your voice.
Hmm.
So you have to have good communication skills. Anyone who is whose pronunciation is not clear, or who stammers heavily, or in case who is whose rate of speech is too high or too low, he cannot be a good controller. So one has to be have a very clear pronunciation, and then he has, so that that gives a confidence to pilot also, that the controller is confident. If you do
Right.
not have clear pronunciation, the pilot will also be not uh,
You're not able to
clear,
understand
because
it. Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the pilots are coming from different countries, so they would require that the controllers have proper sufficient English communication and good communication skills. So that is
Right.
required as a controller.
Hmm.
The third one I will say is quick adaptation.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so a controller can experience countless number of unexpected traffic situations and abnormal situations. So what happens is, so in these cases, there is a competitive controller, he can identify the risk and complex dangerous situations,
Mhm.
and he can determine what action he has to take, and in a timely manner, and then he can avoid the complex situations. Whereas if a normal controller, or if a if in normal situations, what happens is people are good at decision making, but when it comes to busy environment, they will be getting confused so as what to take action, and what things has to be given priority. So this quick adaptation should be there.
Right.
And the fourth one I would say is concentration skills.
Uh-huh.
So because since the controller is sitting for long hours or long duration, he has to focus on the channel.
Mhm.
So one can say on the channel, mental labor is more as compared to the physical labor. So
Right.
he has to concentrate for a long number of time. Also, when he's working on shifts, uh, the days are not same because he's not working from 9 to 5. Some days it is morning shift, some days it is afternoon shift, some days it is night shift. So he may have sleep disorder because of that. So you have to be at good concentration skill, because you have to work for long hours. So I would say that constant concentration skill and good stamina should be there, because it is a highly mental, high intensity mental labor job.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what it is required. And the fifth one is the last I would say is service mind for controllers. But
Uh-huh.
service minds play a very important role in guiding the pilot throughout. So what happens is when a controller, the job is not a self-centered work.
Uh-huh.
So as an air traffic controller, he has to care about the surroundings also. He has to care about the pilot. So it is not a self-centered job. So what happens is they cannot express their bad emotions to the pilot, or they cannot say anything on RT. ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ
Right.
भी वो लोग बोल दें. So it should be they should have a service mind, and they should explain the pilot in such a manner that pilots are comfortable and not anxious. So I would
Mhm.
say that these five things are required. And the last one, which is very important, would be self-discipline. Being an air
Right.
traffic controller, you cannot take things casually. So you should be very self-disciplined.
Very, very rightly put down, sir. And in fact, these skills are easier said than done. You know, when someone says that I'm a multitasker, obviously it's easier said than done. And all of these skills that you have mentioned is obviously something which our learners could develop over a period of time. And definitely, if someone who is passionate about the world of air traffic controller could start their skill building journeys from now itself into whatever they do, and have the skills transferred when they are actual an air traffic controller. So thank you, sir, so much on that. My final question to you, and this is something which I generally asked in all my podcast shows, so don't it won't be a repetition, because every job has got its own charm. So I just wanted to ask, is air traffic control, or being an air traffic controller, is it an art, or is it a science, or is it a combination of both?
The role of a air traffic controller, I would say, rather is a combination of both art and science,
Hmm.
because as we have discussed earlier, being on the channel, you should have good communication skills and concentration skills, quick decision making. So and also you have to have this maybe the ability to quickly calculate and make judgments. So it is
Right.
a combination of both, and art and say
Science.
science,
Yeah.
because you have to have multiple skill sets, good communication skills, and make judgments quickly depending on, you have to calculate. Suppose manage example that we are doing highest movements in a day, that
Hmm.
depends on both art and science,
Science.
because आपको पहले देखना भी है कि आप कैलकुलेट करोगे कि कितने डिपार्चर्स आपके जा सकते हैं और
Hmm.
कैसे जाएगा. So you have to judge, you have to calculate on that, and then you have to make judgments also, which, so it's I would say it is a combination of both art and science.
Very, very well said, sir. Very well said. And yes, it is actually an art and science both. Not only need to know the technical know-how, but you also have all of these, sort of valuable skills which could come in. And the role is such dynamic that आपको दोनों ही चीजें manage करके चलनी पड़ती है.
Yes,
So thank you so
because
much. Yeah.
Because क्या है कि आपको जो है जो judgment है quickly you have to make also, and you have to read the rules and regulations also. बहुत सारे rules and regulations that you have to be aware of. तो this requires both कि आपको सब चीज़ें पढ़नी भी हैं, वो सारी चीज़ें याद भी करनी है, उसके अलावा you have to do practical making quick judgments और वो calculate भी करना है. तो आपको दोनों चीज़ करनी है, आपको ये सारी चीज़ें याद भी होनी चाहिए, उसके साथ साथ आपको वो practically use भी करना है.
Right. Very well said, sir. Very well said. And thank you so much for this wonderful insight into the world of air traffic controller. Moving on to the final section of this episode, which is the rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions, and I would like your opinions on that.
Okay.
So my first question to you is, sir, what is that one thing that you have started to do in this pandemic that you were not doing previously?
I've started reading books.
Very nice. Very nice. So it also comes to me as well. I am not an avid book reader. I generally watch documentaries. That is what my forte is. So I'm a visual learner than a reader. So I have also started this in this pandemic. So right, thank you so much for that. My next question to you is, one thing that you would like to change in the air traffic control sector?
Air traffic control sector, I would say that the equipments which are used in foreign countries, I would कि वो we are maybe 5 to 6 years behind in equipment section. So वो अगर इंडिया में आ जाए, we can do better as compared to others.
Very, very well said, sir. Very well said. My next question to you is, what will be your advice, the best advice for a 25-year-old Ravindra?
For 25-year-old Ravindra, maybe he's too lazy as compared to now. Yes.
As compared to now, right? But here you are. Very nice. What you would like to be called by the world? Ravindra as an educator or Ravindra the ATC guy?
I would call myself not simply an ATC, but I would call myself an educator.
Right.
Because
and I could see that. Yeah.
Because I want more people to know about my job profile, or even if they want to know about aviation also, I help them to learn more about aviation. और मैं सब चीज में हेल्प करता हूँ. किसी को अगर पायलट भी बनना है तो दे कैन आस्क मी, दे आस्क मी आल्सो. सो आई टेल देम कि ये मेरे फ्रेंड्स हैं, इनके पास चले जाओ. सो आई वांट टू बी more a kind of educator than only an ATC.
Then only an ATC. Very well said. And this last question is something which I'm sure you will think about. If Ravindra was not into aviation, then what Ravindra would have done?
That's a very difficult question for me. But I think I would be maybe in some private job or something like that. Maybe some maybe some information technology or something like that. Because the job I got is very different from what I was doing. Engineering karke most of the students are into maybe information technology or something like that. But since I got this job, I was very fascinated when I looked after into the details when I was going to give Viva. So this is very different kind of job what I was expecting.
Right. Very, very well said, sir. Very well said. And thank you so much for this wonderful insights. It was an excellent show into the world of air traffic controller. And thank you so much for your time, Ravindra. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come on this wonderful platform and sharing my views on being an air traffic controller. And I would request you to give me same opportunity if in future, if it is possible.
Oh yes, definitely. That is where knowledge sharing comes, sir. We are equally passionate to train the youth to know the right things about aviation, and we will obviously constantly work together in the area to create the right workforce for the industry. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.